Okay, so I thought it'd be beneficial to just start with a little rough timeline of kind of the UC process. I know applications are coming up, the deadline for the UC is coming up very soon, November 30th. So just kind of what it looks like after that and what to expect. So you'll turn your UC application in end of November, and then you should be expecting like an email from Haas and Berkeley in general saying, hey, we got your application, you're good to go, wait for the next steps, and that should be in December. And then in January, you are going to have to submit your official transcripts and stuff like that for your fall grades, just so they're all kind of caught up. With Haas, they do a supplemental application. So you're not only filling out the regular UC application, you're also going to be filling out another one. I've had lots of questions saying, hey, are we going to get that opportunity to fill out the supplemental either way? Yes, you will. As long as you put Haas School of Business on the UC application, you'll get that opportunity to fill out the supplemental. So it's not like, oh, hey, I got the supplemental in January, so I like made it to the next round. No, everybody gets to fill that out. So expect that like around mid-January in your emails. You're going to have about 2 weeks to fill it out. So the supplemental application will be due January 31st. So it's just something to keep in mind, put on your calendars that, they do give you a short deadline. It does look very similar to the UC application though. It's going to be a resume section. You'll have a couple essays to fill out. So just kind of keep that deadline in mind for those of you that are trying to get into Haas or want to get into Haas for next year. And then late March, if you're selected for an interview, they are conducted virtually. So you'll be sent like a list of questions and then you'll pre-record yourself and submit it that way. I've heard that you get 2 tries, and that way if you mess up the first time or something like that, you get another opportunity. But if you are selected for an interview, not everybody is selected for an interview. So that's very, very important. Just because you're not selected for an interview doesn't mean that you're not getting into Haas. I'm unsure how they select people for interviews and stuff like that, but just keep in mind, hey, if you got selected for an interview, really take this time to share a little bit more that maybe wasn't found on your application. Because, there's obviously a reason you were selected for an interview, right? And then in April, final decisions are released, and you choose if you want to accept Berkeley or not and stuff like that. I do want to promote the Envision Haas session one more time. It is a very, very beneficial thing for those that are trying to get into Haas, because I think a lot of people don't know about it, and it's a resource that not a lot of people use, right? Like I know when I transferred from my community college, I had no idea about it. And I really wish I had, because it would have helped me with like, what classes do I need to take? Or, how are these Haas students feeling coming out of community college? Do they feel like they belong and stuff like that? So November 20th, I will send it in the chat, the link to sign up. Definitely recommend. The next part, I do want to talk about Haas's 4 defining principles. So for those of you that don't know, it is something that Haas embodies with their students, and it is something that they look for, on their supplemental application in the essay portion. It's kind of like not stating them, like saying, hey, like I'm a student always by. They really just want you to like embody those within the essay, and it is something that they're looking for their transfer students to have as they admit them. So there's 4 of them. So the first one is confidence without attitude. So making decisions based on evidence and analysis, and acting with humility, and really collaborating with your teammates, right? Because with business majors, you never know. Sometimes you'll get people that can be kind of rude, right? Like the businessy side, but that's not what Haas is looking for. They want collaboration. They want you to work as a team and come to a conclusion. The second one is question the status quo. So at Haas, they believe in innovation and making progress and really like speaking your mind. So there's not always one right way to do something, right? So just kind of like making that known to them. And then the third one is beyond yourself. So be willing to help others and go beyond your circle, right? So we're all, kind of on the similar path, college, get a degree, get a job, right? But really stepping outside of that and helping your peers, whether they need a job. So maybe connecting them, networking, stuff like that. And the fourth one is student always. So having a curious mind, knowing that, hey, I don't really know everything, right? Yes, if you do get into Haas, or even maybe right now, you're just like, you like know a subject very, very well, no, you don't. And you need to realize that, right? And there's always more learning to do in the world. And so just keep in mind, it is something, those 4 defining principles, you can find them on the Haas website to review as well. But for those of you that are applying, just a little hint is that is something that they're looking for. Not so much in the UC application, because they kind of know, well, hey, they're applying to multiple UCs, so we're not expecting you to like pinpoint Berkeley, but it is going to be very important for that supplemental application in January. So just kind of keep that in mind. Before I have my panelists introduce themselves, feel free, we're going to try to make this kind of very open. So if you have any questions, type them in the chat. I will ask my panelists them that as well. And yeah, so with that being said, for my panelists that are here, I'm just going to have you go ahead and just do some intros, a little bit about your story from the community college side of things, and how the transition into Haas really went. And if Adon's here, we can start in order, or
yeah, perfect. That'll work, Tristan. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so my name is Adan Nevares. I transferred in from Oxnard Community College. I don't have the most traditional transfer story. Immediately after high school, I joined the Marine Corps and I served for 4 years. I went on a couple of deployments, nothing too crazy. Went out to Australia, Japan, Korea. Really enjoyed my time in. I got to learn a lot of new skills and got to be a leader. And that was right after high school. Definitely matured during my time in the Marine Corps, and learned a great deal. Immediately after the Marine Corps, I entered Oxnard College, and I was there for about 2 years. And I also loved my time there. When I was there, my first semester was kind of rough for me, I'd say. It was a hard transition from the Marine Corps to school, but my second semester, I got involved in my student government there, and that was amazing. I love being a part of my student government. I got to lead a lot of different events, and that kind of led to my time coming over here to Berkeley. And transition, definitely difficult, right? It's a different way of thinking. So I would say at the university level, they challenge your way of thinking a lot more than they do at community college. And they kind of expect you to think for yourself, right? Whereas in community college, you kind of get all the materials you need to succeed, right? Your professor will tell you exactly what you need to do for all your assignments. And all you gotta do is go ahead and do it. Whether at the university, a lot of the times I would think to myself, I feel like I'm missing half the question. Like, what do I do? How do I do this? And that's just for them to kind of force you to think for yourself and be creative with your thought process. And that's what is expected in the real world when you're actually working your job. You don't always have the ability to go out and ask people for help. So I think that was the biggest difference for starting here at Berkeley.
Perfect. Alice, if you want to go next, I don't think Scanner's with us today.
Yeah, that works. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so I came from Chabot College. Originally, I spent 3 years at Chabot College, and I just switched my major so many times that I couldn't plan on one. So I finally settled on business. And in community college, I was always staying busy, whether it be working in a marketing firm or bartending or serving or working part-time. I kept myself pretty busy in community college. So the transfer to UC Berkeley Haas specifically wasn't too complicated for me, I feel like, because I feel like I always kind of had time management down. But one thing I would echo from Adam is that the questions are a lot less like spoon-fed to you at Haas. So you have to do a lot more critical thinking. And with Haas, there was a lot of opportunities that I found to be really exciting. So it was hard for me to kind of pick one. And I guess I'm just an indecisive person or curious person, I would say. So I always wanted to dabble in every single thing that Haas offered. And I think that was a strange transition for me to kind of have to make those decisions on what I actually want to do and why I'm here. But we can get into that later in some of the other questions. But yeah, that's the biggest thing for my transition.
Perfect. Thank you, Allison. Michael, we'll go do you next.
Cool. What's up, everybody? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Dope. Cool. What's up? I'm Michael. I've transferred from College of Marin, and I think Gabe and Sanjeev, who are actually from College of Marin, are in here. So shout out to you guys. That's super dope. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me when I was at community college was, constantly just keeping myself occupied, which I feel like is kind of a theme throughout all of us. I was working at a movie theater, and then also working on like my own personal business, which was more music related, and really just producing a lot as much as I could, because I was really tapped into the music side of things. But for myself, kind of the transition over to Berkeley, it was, I would say, the biggest thing or piece of advice I could offer would be to take advantage of your alumni network. And that goes for anywhere, right? Even if Berkeley isn't the place that you want to be, but all of these schools have such incredible alumni that have gone to them. And I think the biggest thing for me was really reaching out to whoever that chair of the alumni committee was, and starting a relationship with them, and going and asking questions, finding people on LinkedIn and saying, hey, do you have a contact with this person? And that's kind of ultimately how I kind of have gotten some outside opportunities from within Berkeley, which is awesome. And the opportunity at Berkeley is just incredible as well. So really try to take advantage of that if you can. But yeah, it's kind of my 2-minute spiel.
Perfect. Daniel?
Thank you, Tristan. My name is Daniel. I'm a junior, recent transfer to Haas. I transferred from Irvine Valley College. So if we have any people here, shout out to you. First off, I just want to say that I always love speaking with fellow transfer students, and looking up to my peers of seniors here that transferred. It's always just it's my favorite part of being here at Berkeley, just seeing all these amazing stories. And one thing that all of you have, and especially being at community college, is you have a story. And so you got to make sure that when you're writing those essays, you're transferring, you're coming into Haas, wherever you decide to go, make sure you resonate your story, and don't be afraid of it. Be proud of your story. And so for myself, community college was actually the path that I decided on going when I was a junior in high school, because of finance reasons. And also I felt like I wasn't mature enough to go into a 4-year institution. And also I just didn't know what I wanted to do. But I decided to go to IVC early on, and I finished up all my classes. And because of that opportunity of being at community college, I was able to start my own business. I was working full time. I was able to get into the student government, tutor. All these amazing opportunities came my way because I decided to go to community college. And now that I'm here at Berkeley, you're in a transition. A lot of people, especially my panelists, can agree that we struggled with imposter syndrome. But one piece of advice I want to give to you is that, when you're transferring, you finally make it to that 4-year institution, be proud of yourself and don't keep yourself back. Just let your story shine, and you're going to do great. So Haas is amazing. It's only my first semester, but I already can tell that, going to community college was the best decision I could have ever made in my life. So yeah, pleasure being here. I'm ready for any questions you have for me.
And last but not least, Isabel.
Awesome. Thanks, Tristan. Really great advice from Daniel there at the end. Definitely always be proud of being a transfer student and a community college student. So yeah, my name is Isabel. If you feel a little bit of an accent, that is because there is one. I'm originally from Spain. I came to the US just to go to college. I was privileged enough to do that. And I spent 3 years at Santa Monica College here in the LA area. Hopefully we have some SMC students. I had the time of my life at Santa Monica College. I really, as other panelists have said, I was incredibly curious about too many things. So at some point I was a doctor, at some point I was going to be an astronaut. So I think, being involved at community college really helped me figure out that in reality, I wanted to do business. And I was super involved. Like, it was a super, super busy as everybody else here. I was in student government my last year. I was part of a program called President's Ambassadors. I was part of honor societies. And I think that made my experience incredibly, incredibly wonderful. And as I was going to say, I think because I was so busy and I was tackling so many other things besides the extracurriculars working, when I transferred to Haas, I think I was kind of on the pace that was expected from me. Obviously, academically, I think that's the main thing that, you're kind of worried about, because there's going to be another level of excellence that's required from you. But all I have to say is that if you made it to Haas, that means you work hard, you're a good student, even if you get a first midterm, it's not what you're expecting, that's okay. You just got to keep on going. So it's a bit hard, but I think the wonderful thing about Haas is that the transfer community is so tight. And so you're always really going to have support, and that's very important. So it was a bit hard, but so worth it. And, even if we're not online, I still feel very connected to Haas, which is, amazing. So yeah, as Daniel said, super happy to be here, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Perfect. Thank you guys for introducing yourselves. I think a main question that comes up a lot is, and Isabel kind of touched on it, what extracurriculars did you guys do in the CC that you think either made your experience or helped you get into Haas?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start off again with that. So at first, like I said, I wasn't really doing much until I finally realized, like, dang, I need to do something. I need like a bigger purpose in my life, and I need to do something of value. And I got involved in my student government. The first year of my student government, I was a senator, and I didn't really do too much. I was kind of like party planning committee, and I think our student government for the most part that entire year was just kind of party planning, right? Like host events, get food trucks, have food trucks come out, and just things like that. It wasn't until my next year when I ran for president and I got it, and I started trying to really make a difference in our, thank you, Isabel, I see the clapping. I started really trying to make a difference in our school, right? And kind of do some change. And, I looked at our demographics, and we had a lot of homeless population. We have a lot of low income population, and just people that need support, right? So some things I did, I created a food pantry at our school. Sorry, 1 second.
No worries.
Sorry about that, everybody. I'm visiting family right now, so I got people coming in, but we're gonna go ahead and adapt and overcome on that, right? As I was saying, I created a food pantry to help, feed our students healthy nutritional groceries. I saw that our students really didn't have many, much business attire, so I created a space that help clothe our students and give them, business attire for interviews or jobs. And when doing that, I kind of noticed they needed more than just the business attire, and they needed, regular clothing as well, and and hygiene products, a lot of feminine hygiene products. So then we kind of transformed that and built upon that and did more. I also created a scholarship fund for undocumented students, and I had a lot of relationships on campus. I was also a student worker there, so I built a lot of relationships during my time there, and I was able to partner with different organizations to kind of raise additional money for this scholarship fund. And so I wasn't involved in 20 different clubs. I was involved in this one organization, and I was a student on campus. But through that organization, through my position, I was able to make a lot of different change, right? So that's definitely, I think that was a big part of why I got accepted, as well as me being a veteran here. Just the quality of work that I did. It wasn't so much on the quantity; it was more so on the quality. And that's what I would advise anyone to focus on a little bit more. Don't focus on being a part of 30 different clubs. Focus on being 1, 2 clubs, and do work, make change in that club. Find something that you enjoy doing that brings value into your life, and that'll go beyond everything.
Perfect. Anybody else? Allison or Michael or?
Yeah, I can jump in really quick. I mean, like, super hard to follow that up because that is insane. But I think, like, kind of what Adam was saying was really following, whatever you think that driving force inside of you is, whatever kind of fires you up, or where you think you can have the most change. And for myself, kind of opposite, where I honestly wasn't that involved in my community college. The one thing I did do that that probably did help on the essays was I talked about my tutoring experience and working as a tutor there. So I did do some tutoring for the business classes, which I think, especially for Haas, helps a lot, kind of showing that you've learned the material to a certain point where you can help teach somebody else that material. But for myself, I think in just advice wise, it's about trying to figure out what you think that niche is that makes you different or makes you kind of stand out in as a needle in a haystack, right? For me, that was music. And so a lot of my essays I tried to spin in some type of way where it was music related. And then activity wise, that's what I was doing after school. It wasn't necessarily involved super heavily at my community college, but I was going home and working on music every night and throwing shows in the city and trying to be involved in that sense, because like that was my niche, right? And I think kind of taking a step back and figuring out what it is that you think kind of sets you apart and honing that is really, really important.
I actually, oh, go ahead,
Go ahead.
Allison.
Okay. I would just echo the fact that like your own experiences as extracurricular should be your own, and how you really go about it is like just making whatever your story is to be true and to really emphasize your strengths. I wrote one of my essays about bartending, and that's definitely not like, a lot of people wouldn't say anything about like how bartending is prestigious or business oriented, but if you sell it in a way that makes it seem like, I sold and I was producing sales and I was relationship oriented, I listened to people. I think there's always kind of a way you can frame things and make it so that it's actually beneficial for your application. And I always think there's always stepping stones to where you want to be. So it's all about taking what you have now and creating like, what's the next step for yourself. So just thinking through that and thinking through that while you're doing your actual applications is definitely a huge learning point.
Yeah, I just want to echo something that Aiden said, Alan, sorry, in my Spanish accent. You don't need any sort of business like experience or extracurricular to get into Haas. That you guys don't worry about that. I didn't have any of that. And at some point you're gonna be dealing with numbers in kind of a businessy area in any kind of club that you end up going to. So that's one thing. And second, I really want to emphasize the fact that they don't care if you've been part of the board of 8 different clubs, but you have nothing to tell them about what you did in them because you were so spread out, right, that you really couldn't really make an impact. So that's what they're looking at. It's like, okay, this person maybe had 2 different positions. What did you do in them, right? And how do those experiences really showcase who you are and how you connect yourself to those defining leadership principles? So the best thing that I can, recommend you is to do things that you're passionate about, because whenever you're doing things that you're passionate about, that's when you're going to do your best. That's when you're going to make an impact. So there is no, as you can see, and this is a wonderful panel because you see that there's people that have done very different things and we've all ended up here. So do things that you love, and don't feel like because you're working full time and maybe you're not doing as many clubs, you have less of a chance. That's not true at all, right? So everybody has their own experience, and experience has a lot of value. So yeah, that would be what I would say for this.
Daniel, since you're the only junior on the panel, do you have anything to add with that one?
Yeah, I think everyone said amazing things. For me, in community college, I would consider myself someone that really valued I was someone that really valued being there in the moment. I never looked at myself and was like, wow, I wish I was at a 4-year, or wow, I'm not good enough. So what I made my experience about was promoting community college and also promoting the students there. So I was part of the honors program where I was, on the board helping students get from point A to point B, get the resources they need, help them with their essays. I was also a tutor myself. I taught accounting and econ, so I was there for the students. Additionally, I spoke up until COVID. I was the speaker. I was going to present at commencement, and my goal was to kind of give all the students a platform in order to be successful at community college and transfer successfully. So I had a breadth of experiences at college, but I centered around giving back to my students and the people I was a part of, my peers at community college. So, and then kind of going back to what Isabel said, you really want to make sure you're focusing on those 4 pillars, because if you look at yourself and you look at those essays and your experiences, if you can check off each of those pillars. So number 1 is question the status quo. confidence without attitude, student always, and beyond yourself. If you can go in and check all those boxes, you're probably going to be a really good fit for Haas. And they really look at that. Haas, Berkeley was definitely off my radar. I thought I wasn't good enough to get in there, but after I got in and I reflected on what I did at community college, I noticed that, I followed all of those 4 pillars, and I wasn't doing it just to, get from point A to point B and, transfer. I was doing it because I really enjoyed being there in the moment. And I knew that community college was an amazing stepping stone. And so just really appreciate all that you have and reflect on your experience and ask yourself, how can I represent myself with the pillars of Haas, and how can those pillars resonate in my application? So that kind of encapsulates all of my experiences. I don't want to go into too detail, but that's just a little gist of it.
Perfect. I think all the panelists hit on it. I want to go back to Isabel because she made a good point. Find something, they're more looking for what are you passionate about? They're not looking at, student government and this club, that club, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for, hey, does this student have something that they're passionate about? Do they have a good story to tell? And, did they really, become a leader? Did they make change? Stuff like that. Like for me, similar to our panelists, not involved a lot in community college. I was more focused on, my full-time job and being a store manager and stuff like that. So I didn't do any business clubs or any other clubs besides the Honor Society at community college. But again, I had this job that I was just so passionate about, and I had made change within that workplace that I could just have that story and tell, right? So I just kind of want to reiterate that Isabel made a huge point. Find something that you're passionate in and stick with that story, especially on your UC application or the supplemental. You don't have to have all these different things. That's not what they're looking for, right? Because there's a lot of people that can just check a box and be in a club, but are they actually making change? Are they actually, going to club meetings, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. I guess the next question for the panelists would be, what do you like about Haas and what do you dislike about Haas? And Adon, if you want to start us off again.
Yeah, of course. I think coming in, I was looking at, Berkeley and Haas in particular, and it was, number 2 public, undergraduate business program in the world, right? So I had all these huge and high expectations of what I was going to learn. And I thought I was going to be a business guru, right? By the time I'm out of here. And I'm in my 2nd year, I have 1 semester left and I don't feel like I'm there, right? But I think I had all these high expectations, these ridiculously high expectations, but it's my undergraduate degree. The degree is very just a general business degree, right? If you want to specialize in any one thing, you really have to reach out and go for those classes and take those classes. I thought I was going to be learning a lot more. So I think that's just kind of college in general, right? I think that's college in general. You think you're going to be learning so much, and you kind of I think I kind of got disappointed in that sense. But I think it really helped humble me, really humble me. I used to think so highly of all these, prestigious universities and Berkeley and Stanford, Harvard, Yale, all these universities that have big names, right? And wow, the people that went there must be super smart. And now that I'm here, I'm kind of yeah, everyone around me is really smart, but I don't think we're learning anything, that someone at a state school, is learning, right? I think it's very similar. And I think, like I said, it really humbled me in that way. But what I do really like, and what is really special about here being at Haas, is all the resources and the connections that you'll make, and the people. I love the people, and as a transfer especially, we got the opportunity to attend a program during summer where it was 6 weeks long. It was nothing but transfer students, and they even switched around the people so you can meet every single person in your transfer class that attended the summer program. So I think ours, we had 70 some odd people out of the 100 that attended, and I got pretty close with everybody, and immediately that helped me build a community. And wherever you are, community, I'd say, is one of the biggest things that you want to have. You want to have a good group of people that have your back, that can support you, and that you can support them. And I think that's the easiest way to succeed, to have, a really strong community. And being at Haas definitely gave me that.
That's good advice. Alice, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I would definitely echo what Adam said about the community and the people. I think that was my plus, was everyone is very aspirational and motivating. And I think I definitely thrive in like highly motivational bubbles, I guess, if you will. So it was very much like a domino effect as to like, if one person is very like a go-getter, very much a go-getter in one group, you tend to like pick it up. So I really like that about Haas. My negative, I would say, about Haas is that I wish there were more entrepreneurial resources for undergrads. I've noticed they have a lot of entrepreneurial resources for the MBA program, but not a lot of those tend to trickle down to the undergrads. So that's my one thorn.
And Michael?
Yeah, I guess like I'll start with the downside and then move to positive. But similar to what Adam was saying, like with the education, something I wish I had known going in, which I guess maybe isn't made all that clear, is that if you do want to specialize in something, you really have to take advantage of the electives, because that's where you're going to learn it. Because it's a breadth of business law knowledge that you come in to gain. They don't really mention that going in, but that's like my one gripe. And you kind of have to seek out those classes or opportunities, which is doable, right? But it's just kind of going in knowing that, I think, is really important. But the moving to the positives, like by far the transfer community, it's one of the most amazing just communities and groups of people that I've ever had the opportunity to meet, because you all go through the same thing. You get to connect with 100 odd some students going in. You really create this transfer family before you even start, which just makes the experience that much better, right? And I don't know any other school that does it that way, and I think that's something super unique and important that Haas has to offer. And on that point, it's the network that we get coming into Berkeley as well. Like, not only networking up, but also networking out. Like, the people that you come in with are such awesome, amazing people that it's really easy to meet somebody that you really, really vibe with, which I think is one of the most important parts of college in general. You want to be around people that you like being with or working with. And I won't get too into specifics or anything, but there's people at Haas as well that are so willing to give you the resources that you want, especially on the alumni side. Like, I would go in with just a big list of people on LinkedIn and ask for their emails, and this woman Meg every time would just give me the list, and they give you the resources that you need to accomplish what you want to do, which I think is really, really special and important.
Daniel, do you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah. I should probably go first next time because they're stealing all the good points.
Okay, we'll go first.
Just joking. So I'm going to start with the negative first and then work my way to the positive. So this is my first semester, and a lot has happened. It's been a crazy semester for everyone, but I had some time to reflect before this meeting, and I came up with a few positives and a few negatives. So the first thing with the negative is that the Haas curve is very intense. So when you're transferring to Haas, just make sure you're ready for it. Do your research, understand how the classes work, because I'm still trying to understand it myself, and it's been very challenging.
Do you want to, really quick, do you want to explain the Haas curve, or you want?
Kristen, how about you do that? And then I'll go.
Okay. Okay, so from my understanding what the Haas curve is, they're trying to make it kind of fair for you guys. I guess that's their idea of it. So they kind of set like a class average, and if you perform above the average, well then, you're looking at getting A's and stuff in the classes. But if you perform below the average, then you're looking at like C's, B minuses, and the average is kind of set like at a B plus. So if you really want to get that A, you have to really outperform the rest of the class. And then same thing, like if you're not doing so well and you're below the average, well, then you're probably looking like at a C or a B minus and stuff like that. It helps for those super tough classes like finance or econ, where like the average, right, on the first test is maybe like a C. Well, you know, since the whole class performed at like a C level, you're still gonna get like a B plus in the class, right? So it helps for the hard classes, but then like for the easy classes where everybody's getting like a 98 in the class, well, even though the grade book says a 98, you're still gonna get a B plus. So it's beneficial in some ways, not in others. I don't know, panelists, did I do kind of a good job describing that? It's a hard concept to grasp, especially coming in to Haas. You don't really know what to expect with that one.
I would only add, Tristan, I think you did a beautiful job explaining this great concept that we have here at Haas of the curve. But just so that you know, what made me understand it is that there's a limited amount of A pluses, there's a limited amount of A's, there's a limited amount of A minuses. What determines what grade you get is the ranking in the class, right? So your performance is being compared to the rest of the people. Now we can discuss whether that is great for encouraging people to study more, whether that creates some sort of competition and maybe not wanting to share resources, which is something that I have never experienced. But that's kind of the system. There's a limited amount of A minuses, A's, or every single grade. At community college, you get a 90.1, you get your A, right? At Cal, as Tristan said, there's specifically one class that we all know you might have a 98, then comes out you have a B plus, right? UGBA 10, was it 105?
105.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll leave it on to Daniel to continue his analysis of pros and cons.
So be ready. So class of 2023, we're gonna get you all ready to go. But my second, not negative, but something that you want to make sure you're aware of before you enter Haas is that Haas is a recruiting machine. You know, you're coming in and they're going to put you through that recruiting cycle. Even if you don't want to go into the industry, you're going to feel like everyone around you is recruiting and there's a pressure for you to follow in other people's footsteps. And as a result of that, it gets very intimidating. I came in straight out of community college thinking I wanted to do IB. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's study. And then I realized that's not what I wanted to do. And then I was like, let's do consulting because everyone else is doing consulting and they're promoting consulting so much. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. And I had to take a step back and realize that Haas does a really good job with, getting you a degree and getting you a nice paycheck after you're done. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't promote a diversity of business acumen. You want to look outside of the box, similar to what, I think Allison, I think you were the one that mentioned that, the entrepreneurship. You got to go out and find those resources and do that yourself. But make sure you're aware of that. When you're coming in and you're transferring, you want to make sure you know what you want to do and don't feel the pressure of Haas and the recruiting season and all these people going into IB or consulting get to the best of you. And I think the positive with Haas is that the family, like I am just so surprised that I made so many amazing friends. And even though it's COVID, I have all these amazing virtual friends, people at Berkeley, transfers, continuing students, and everyone is just so kind and so supportive. I feel overwhelmed just talking about it. And also the networking at Haas and the alumni are fantastic. And you will never go to one place and not see someone else that is also a Haas alum. And that's something you should look forward to. The family at Berkeley Haas is amazing.
Perfect. I think, and then Daniel brought up a good point. As far as the recruiting process goes, it's kind of called the ABCs, and it's something that I learned coming in as a junior last year. Is accounting, banking, and consulting are super heavily recruited at Cal. So if you're like Daniel or Allison, who's pursuing entrepreneurial, well, then they had to kind of go outside and reach out to people that might have not been on campus, right? So they kind of had to put in that extra work. So that's just something to keep in mind. But don't think that you have to go into those three major things just because everybody else is. So I think that was a really good point to bring up. Before I move on to the next question, Isabel, did you have anything else to add with this one, or?
Yeah, I think most of the points have been brought up by my fellow panelists. And I think I think Daniel did a wonderful job in just the small time that he's been here and really noticing that probably the curve and the fact that there is a lot of pressure about oh, you're going to this job, this is not maybe as prestigious as this other job, and all that comparison that it's just that's toxic, right? And that can lead you to do things that you really don't want to do. And the story here is that your life is your life, you live it, they don't. So it's important to really realize that you need to do something that you like. But I wouldn't say that's something that's just Haas. I would say that at any competitive school that you have, that's something that's ingrained, and we need to move from it. But I will say, for the other positive things that my fellow panelists mentioned, they're spot on. One thing that I want to add is the faculty. The people that are teaching you at Haas are incredibly accomplished individuals. Most of them, they're not doing research as in the other colleges at Cal. So they have a lot of time for you to go and talk to them about their careers, how they make decisions. And they're really, really willing to talk to you about that. So, for me, a lot of the faculty, I'm like, I really look up to them. It's incredible to be taught by those individuals. And I would say that a lot of our classes, even if you're not getting an MBA, right? But Haas is known for giving a pretty tough education, a lot of concepts that you'll be, if you get an MBA, you might not feel that big of a difference. But I think at Haas, it's practical. You're going to read so many Harvard Business School cases that you're going to get tired of it in your classes, because they really want you to think critically about the business world and how to solve issues. And I think that really shapes your education and shapes you as a leader. So I think that's the education it has, it's, in my opinion, I think it's very, very good.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the faculty, because yeah, we did miss that, and that is something that's very rewarding at Haas. Really quick, I want you guys, and I wish I would have done it at the beginning, can you just go ahead and state, where you plan on starting full-time, internships next summer, stuff like that, and did Haas help you get that, do you feel like, or do you feel like it was kind of on your own, just to get a feel of like who's in the room and stuff like that, what career field you're going into?
You want to start at the bottom for this one or top again?
Sure, Isabel, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm actually, I'm telling you to live your life and do what you love. Turns out I'm part of the ABC. So I am on the A, accounting. I kind of learned about accounting at the Big Four when I was at community college, and I really loved the working experience that this company's had to offer for the beginning of your career. And so, it is true, when you come in as a transfer, you're going to be like, whoa, like you need to recruit for all of these things. You need to prepare for interviews. Like it's a lot, right? It's overwhelming. But I think I tended to go to accounting, and I did my internship this last summer with EY, with Ernst & Young on their assurance department. I was very happy about it. I did realize that it was probably something that I wouldn't see myself doing for a very long time. But I love the team and the vibe and the opportunities that could bring me. So I signed my offer to go back, which, being an international student and needing that H-1 visa, it's really a breath of fresh air. So I'll be coming back with EY at the end. I did do a previous internship with the World Bank that was really great in Washington, D.C., and that really shaped what I like to do. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to mix these two things later on in the future. When it comes to whether Haas helped me get there, I think the Haas brand, it's very strong. And it's lovely to be able to talk to a lot of people that work at the Big Four that went at Cal to ask for advice. So I think it was definitely key. I see that the Big Four hire people from really all over. They're not like, oh, we only hire from like Haas and UCLA, which that's just lame. And I really love that. I would say for things that are considered like this high prestigious careers like IB, maybe consulting, being part of Haas would have played a more critical role. But in general, I think that the opportunities that Haas gave me were very important.
Perfect, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. So first thing I want to start off by saying is that, the Haas to industry pipeline is real. It's going to be a big plus if you're going to Haas, especially, and it's going to be a great it's going to be a good pipeline for you to get into those great companies that you want to work into. But it's not everything. And so that's very key. Just because you're at Haas doesn't mean you're guaranteed a job. You still have to work hard. You still have to recruit. You still have to interview and practice all those cases and do all that good stuff. I am very excited. I'm going to be an intern this summer for finance in the finance department of Clorox. So I'm going to be learning a lot about, the industry. I'm going to be learning about the different groups they have at Clorox, working with products and seeing how finance is, the backbone of any business. And so what I'm going to be doing with that internship is gaining experience within finance. But my ultimate goal is hopefully, by the time I leave Haas, is that I'll have all this experience in the industry and then be able to start my own business. So I'm very excited for that internship in the summer. I do believe that I was able to get this opportunity because of Haas, because I know Clorox has an amazing connection with Haas. But at the same time, I recognize that, this opportunity is great, but still next year when I recruit for full time, I have to really think about what I want to do in the long run. And so I'm still deciding. And big congratulations to Isabel on that full-time offer.
Cool. Yeah.
Michael, I just saw a chat.
Yeah, go for it.
I got that opportunity. So maybe someone can touch up on this, but we have a system called Handshake. It's a website where you can find job openings and apply to them, and then you'll be able to get in touch with recruiters and go through that recruiting process. So I saw that internship posting on handshake.com. You'll get that opportunity once you're in Haas, and you'll be able to enter it and make your profile and apply. But then also my professor Janet Brady was the VP of marketing at Clorox. And so when I was applying to Clorox, I made sure I talked to her because she's had 25 years of experience there. And when I went into the interview, I kind of mentioned, hey, I know Janet Brady. She told me X, Y, and Z, and I'm very excited about your firm. And that was also a big plus on my end because I knew Janet Brady and she was able to give me some good advice. Sorry about that, Mike.
No, that's awesome. All good. Yeah, Janet is the GOAT. She's so awesome. But for myself, I'm a product manager at Apple, specifically Apple Music. I had a bit of like a left field opportunity where I actually took last semester off and went and worked over there for 8 months, and then I got brought back, and so I'm there right now working full time while wrapping up this senior year. But I think like 1000% Haas is the only reason I'm there. Like it has to be, because again, like Daniel was saying, Handshake is super, super key. It's like the two most important things are, one, utilizing Handshake, and two, building relationships and reaching out to your alumni network. And so my situation was more of the latter, where there's this incredible woman, Meg, who runs the entire alumni program at Haas. And so kind of what I was doing when I was in this recruiting phase, I knew I either wanted to be at Apple Music or Spotify. It was one of the two, and I'm an Apple Music day one user, so I was kind of leaning more on that side. But Spotify's dope as well, don't get me wrong. But I would go to her with a bunch of people that I had found on LinkedIn, and she would give me their emails, and then I would send cold emails and as well as cold LinkedIn messages. And like, I don't necessarily recommend doing that. And if you do it, like, there's a certain way you have to go about framing the conversation. And I'm super down to talk to anybody about that if you do have questions. So I mean, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn after this. I'll toss in my my LinkedIn. But yeah, I reached out to this one guy, Austin, sent him a cold DM, and we just started chatting, kind of built a little online relationship. And he was ultimately the guy that referred me, and I got the interview opportunity, took advantage of it, and now he's my manager. And like and he went to Haas as well, so I guess that's the most important part, that he was a Haas alumni. But I owe everything to that guy. Like he's the one that gave me the opportunity and changed my life, and it all stemmed from just this mutual connection of of being Haas alum, which I think shows the power of the type of people that you'll be able to kind of network and intermingle with here.
Allison,
Yes.
or
So just continuing on with the question, everyone has been giving such good advice. So I'll try to follow up with everyone, but I'm continuing. So as I said before, I always had kind of like an entrepreneurial route. So I am continuing with the company I co-founded after graduation. So that's super exciting to kind of be able to build a company from the ground up and hopefully watch it take off. So that's kind of, I've been working full-time this semester with them, and now I'm going to continue after graduation. But kind of continuing the conversation of like, did Haas help? I would say 100%. My co-founder is an MBA, so it helped for me to kind of network with the MBAs. And I think a lot of undergrads are kind of afraid of networking with MBAs, but I always think that they have such a breadth of knowledge, and they're very much career oriented because they've been working for 5 to 8 years. So I think it's always good to kind of network with the MBAs, and I would say that's a huge plus within Berkeley, Haas, specifically the undergrad program. If you're an undergrad student, I highly recommend just also chatting it up with the MBAs as much as you would your undergrad or transfer classmates. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing after graduation. And yeah, that's all I could say is especially if you're looking into entrepreneurship, definitely don't be afraid of networking.
Berkeley and Haas do a really good job in kind of weeding people out and picking top people, right? So companies know this, and the second you tell someone you're from Berkeley or you're Haas, they have all of these assumptions going on in their head. They immediately think you're smart and you're probably hardworking. And I mean, whether it's true or not, right? Berkeley and Haas have created this, kind of culture around that our students are this way. And so that does a lot of the weeding out for the companies ahead of time. So wherever you're applying to, Haas, having Haas is definitely going to help you land that internship or help you land that, that job. But at the end of the day, yes, like, you're going to be going into those interviews, and it's going to be on you to kind of secure the bag and, make sure that you get, Haas might help you get in the door, but, it won't get you the job unless, you're also out there, right? And you're, someone that would get that job, right? So be likable. Definitely being likable is a huge thing when in interviews and jobs and stuff like that. I interviewed with Wells Fargo for an internship last summer that I ended up getting, and I mean, it was so easy to kind of organize everything through Handshake. I applied and I got an interview. The interview was literally on campus, right? So everything was super easy and super accessible to me. The people there I thought were really amazing. I think I really vibed with them. They're really down to earth people. And I did a financial analyst internship where I kind of did a lot of underwriting, and we work with companies that make anywhere from $5 million to $2 billion in sales revenue per year. And I mean, they always want loans, right? So we pretty much do the underwriting, making sure that they were good for their money, right? Good for the loans, and they'd be able to pay us back. And I got a full-time offer to start next July. So I accepted that, and I'm gonna go ahead and work with them for the next possibly 3 or so years. And I think eventually I'm gonna transition to go back to school, get an MBA. And in the future, I'd like to become a professor at a community college.
perfect. Thank you guys for sharing like your future and like what you guys are doing. It sounds like everybody's all lined up, so that's super exciting, and I can't wait to see what you guys do. I did have a question in the chat. So it says, as community college students, do you guys have any experience and tips in finding internships or jobs? I guess at that level I'm guessing that's what the question is asking. I feel like for my job, my full-time offer, it was just something I had started out of high school, and then I just kind of got promoted within. So I don't know if I have any resources or anything like that. Does anybody else have anything?
I would go ahead and just reach out to people, right? Like look at your network and just start reaching out to people. So maybe, at a community college, your professors might be somewhere where you can go to and find out like where they worked before they were professors, right? They might know people, or reach out to, I mean, to anybody you might know, right? You can even go on LinkedIn and do what Michael did and just like cold email people, cold LinkedIn people, right? Like send them these messages. What I would definitely recommend is definitely find something you have in common with those people, right? So whether they're from your same city, and that's something Michael did. You know, he was reaching out. I mean, like he said, his manager was from Haas, right? So he was probably, you know, all the people he reached out to were all from Haas, right? He had this thing in common with them, so he knew automatically like they have this thing in common, like they're going to be able to connect because of that, right? And that really decreases, you know, the likelihood that they're going to just not reach out to you and kind of ghost you, right? So find something you have in common with them, whether it's you went to the same community college, the same high school, you know, you're from the same town, things that you can find, you know, either on Google or on LinkedIn, right? Use LinkedIn. You definitely use LinkedIn to your advantage, and then just hit people up. Honestly, you just gotta kind of be unafraid to talk to random people you don't even know and kind of show your best side to them, right? And that's how opportunities come for you. Just not being afraid of talking to a stranger.
Yeah, I would definitely repeat what Adam said completely. Also, don't be afraid to start small. A lot of people are swinging for the fences and trying to get these really hyper competitive, you know, firms to hire them. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with starting small at more of a boutique firm, and really inflicting change within that firm. And I would just Google marketing firms within the Bay Area, and I finally found one that would give me a job. So just kind of, you know, not giving up and being persistent. And if they say no one month, they might say yes the next. So I would just say definitely be persistent and don't be afraid to start small, because at the end of the day, it's all about how much change you're inflicting within the organization rather than, you know, like a name brand.
Yeah, 100% agree with both of those points. Like, I think tool wise, the biggest thing for, I mean, like Adon said, is LinkedIn, right? The LinkedIn is incredible. And for myself, I literally did not have one until I came in to Haas, and that was because of Precor, the transfer program. They literally force you to make one. So if you guys make one before, I definitely recommend using that as a tool. And yeah, you can go in and set filters on how you search. So like where I would start, you know, do your community college, and then maybe a type of role that you're interested in, and reach out to some of those people, because especially something I found is transfers in general, just people who have gone through the community college route are so willing to help, no matter where you are in your career journey. So definitely reach out to others who are at or who have graduated from your community college. And yeah, I think similar to what Allison was saying, like, you know, don't be afraid to start somewhere smaller, or not at, you know, some massive company, like you know, put your hours in somewhere else. Like for me, that was really doing music and production, and understanding the business side of how everything functioned. And like I had to earn my stripes on that. So like that was no easy grind. Like that was blood, sweat, and tears. But all of that work kind of led to ultimately getting that opportunity, right? So for sure, 100% start somewhere small, and experience is always better than no experience, right? So don't aim super high, but you know, just see what you can get right now, because I know being in CC is hard. Being in CC is tough, but any experience is great experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like for my job, it was like a small family-owned like plant nursery, right? But I brought about change within the company, and I was really able to just tell my story that way. So I agree. It doesn't have to be huge, right? Like these big names, just something you're passionate in, something that, you know, you can bring about change and stuff. I do have a question in the chat. So competitive GPA to have a good shot. So on average, they say it's about a 3.7, 3.8. But that doesn't mean that if you have below that, you can't get in, right? There are exceptions and stuff like that. But that's just kind of the average 3.7, 3.8. The other question is for interviews, can you tell us what the process is like? So I know all the seniors here that had interviews, or at least mine was like a phone interview. So we were actually talking to somebody else. And for me, it was very conversational and things like that. So I don't know, like I think he asked, how was my day and stuff like that. And, did you do anything post application that you want to tell us about? So it was very conversational. Like it didn't feel like an interview at all. Daniel, I'm going to turn it over to you really, really quick, just because you're the only junior here. If you had an interview, how was the whole virtual process of that?
So yeah, so my first interview was through, I already forgot the name, but it was, you have to talk in front of the camera. You have to record yourself speaking. Does anyone know the name of that? It was HireView. There we go, HireView. So that was my first interview. It was a HireView. No one is on the other line. You just have to answer the questions, record yourself. You get 2 attempts. And that was very scary. I bombed them. I went and cuddled, and I went in bed and just cried. I was like, no, this is so bad, I'm gonna fail. But then when I was applying for consulting and finance, I actually had interviews through Zoom, but there was another person on the line. And through Pre-Core, we actually got to, this year, the Pre-Core was virtual, and we had a lot of practice with interviewing through a virtual setting. So we don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't know, we're not going to know how long we're going to be here virtually, but make sure you're practicing speaking behind the camera, looking straight into your camera and being confident behind the webcam. And so all the interviews for me were virtual, and it was a good experience. It was a little intimidating at first, but you have to have a lot of practice. I did about 20 interviews, and when I did the last one with Clorox, it felt like butter. It was really, really easy. But it's, breaking that barrier, getting comfortable in front of the camera, and making sure that, you have all of your technology in place, you're sitting upright, you're confident, you're smiling. And if you do all those things and you get comfortable behind a camera, you'll do really good. But that was my experience, and we'll see next year. Maybe it will be in person, but for now, I'm just gonna become a master at virtual interviews.
And I think, like, going off what Daniel said, something to keep in mind is now that we have gone through like COVID season and everything's gone virtual, I know at least for my firm that I'm starting with, which is another Big 4 accounting firm, everything's going to be virtual. Their interviews are just going to be all virtual now. So it is something that, they did do this year due to COVID. So it may continue in the future, right? So just practicing, whether it's pre-recording yourself, talking in front of the webcam, I do think it will be something that these big companies and stuff will be carrying out in the future. And I'm gonna do one more question. So do you think this year applying will be any different because of COVID, referring to GPA and acceptance? I can't really answer that just because we're not admissions people, but I guess the answer to that question would be, maybe it depends, right? I know it's not like a solid answer. COVID did hit, right? People had to go home. There was this huge pandemic going on, so grades might have slipped. There was the whole pass, no pass thing, if your community college did that. So I think the admissions team will be more lenient on it, but I would also, in regards to that, and I think it's like the extra info session or something like that on the UC application, if you had to pass, no pass a class, or maybe you withdrew, take that time to explain like why, right? Like it never hurts to just put in that extra information. Because again, we don't know how the admission cycle is gonna go this year just because you guys did have the whole COVID crisis hit, right? So I would just take that time to say, hey, I had to pass, no pass this class because I was moving back home or something like that. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'm not too sure how that'll affect the average GPA or anything like that, but better be safe than sorry to explain, I think that's all the time we have today. I know you guys have to get back. So I just want to thank you guys so much for coming to our session. I know the panelists, feel free to drop your emails. They'd love if you would reach out to them with anything, any other questions you might have that may have not gotten answered today. But yeah, and with that, I'll turn it back over to you guys.